In today's video, we're going to build the biggest swimming pool you could ever see in your life. The mission is tough, almost impossible, but the result will be beyond anything you can imagine. Stay with me through the video to see how they transformed this wrecked truck into one of the largest swimming pools you'll ever come across. The project began when this group of young men decided to build a massive swimming pool inside an old transport truck. From the very first moment, it was clear that the work was going to be extremely demanding, but luck was on their side when the company, Daimler, offered them the chance to work alongside its trainees. They all got to work enthusiastically, dividing the space into several sections: a small pool at the front, equipment to be installed under the terrace, and the rest dedicated to the large pool. The trainees were split into teams. One team would build a huge shower, another would make the bathing chairs, and a third would work on the heater cannon that would warm the water. The truck they used was old and riddled with rust. Cracks and corrosion spread everywhere, making it clear they had a massive task ahead. But the excitement was high because their goal was to create the largest bathtub in the world. The first step was dismantling every single part of the truck. Anything rusty was removed, cleaned, and repaired, then reassembled from scratch.
They reshaped the truck's body so it would take on the form of a bathtub, sealing one side of the door and welding the panels securely. They removed the safety hook at the top, cut off the bolts holding the door in place, and then welded a metal barrier to ensure the door could never open again. Once they finished removing the rust, they started painting the entire body. The corner door was welded shut, and any protruding excess was cut off using a plasma cutting machine. Then they began working on a large opening in the floor. This opening took them a full week to complete because it was made from extremely thick steel, and it needed to allow water to flow through it easily. They installed a large iron valve to control the release of the water. They also had a peculiar design idea, details of which they didn't reveal, but they mentioned it had to be executed at an exact 90-degree angle. They laser cut a piece of steel and welded it to the back section of the pool to ensure the shape came out perfectly. Next, they decided to add bathing chairs so people could sit comfortably inside the bathtub. They sourced some old bathtubs, cut them in half, and transformed them into seats. Their target was to create 16 chairs. They measured everything manually, starting with the first bathtub, from which they made 2 chairs, using them as a template for the rest. The chairs were welded to mounting plates, which were then fixed onto the bathtub wall. They also designed internal bolt-on rings so the chairs could be easily removed or installed. They tested the first chair. It was stable, but still wobbled a little.
So, they installed a solid iron support underneath to reinforce it. They began picturing how the bathtub would look once it was filled with water, and their excitement grew. The chairs still needed the final touches, so they installed a partition wall behind them, which would also serve as the spot for all the equipment. The first thing they welded was a large iron beam. The heat was intense, about 30 degrees Celsius, but everyone kept working and pushing forward despite the exhaustion and sweat. They wanted to see the results of their efforts with their own eyes. They took a look at the ladder leading down and noticed it was a bit too long, so they decided to shorten it from the bottom to make it more comfortable to use. After adjusting it, it truly looked like a piece of art, something that seemed designed by a skilled artist. They continued installing the side barrier and carved openings into it for the equipment fittings. Before starting the painting, they mounted brackets for the devices that would be installed later. Their friend told him he wanted a natural pool without too many machines, so they installed a large pump capable of moving 27,000 liters, a pressure filter to purify the water, and a phosphate filter to prevent algae growth. All the equipment was secured on strong brackets. Once that was done, they finished the painting, then began cutting panels to build a large shower upstairs in the area they nicknamed the secret hideout. They installed the massive filters, placed the large container, and began setting everything up in its designated place. They installed a furnace to heat the water. Its design was simple, lit from the bottom with wood placed on top, and when it heated up, light would shine through the ventilation opening. After that, they began welding the entire structure. The furnace was small, but it had a big job to do: heat all the water in the pool. Inside the furnace, they fitted a coil for water to run through and heat up. They painted it in a matte black finish to give it a sleek look. Once the furnace was ready, the bathtub itself was also prepared. They began painting it entirely and installing the first row of the bathtub floor, which looked excellent. They added protective edging around the rim to prevent injuries. One of the trainees was installing the protection for the first time, and his colleagues gave him a few tips, telling him to pull it back slightly so it would slide in more easily. A friendly challenge kicked off between the machine and the trainee to see who would finish first, and they all joined in with good spirits while the new instructor supervised. The team brought in a massive shower head, 1 meter in diameter, with 140 holes. Drilling it by hand would have taken a long time, but with the laser, it was done in just 4 minutes. It was so large that 2 people could use it at the same time, making it the biggest shower head they had ever built. They attached it to a large iron pipe, laser cut the bends, and installed them precisely at a 90-degree angle. Then they welded it to the ceiling, mounted the shower head, connected the hose to the pump, and tested it. Water flowed out of every opening, and the pressure was excellent. The pool needed a handrail, so they installed one using strong ropes, giving the final look a very appealing touch. To make the bathtub stand out even more, they painted it white, and the result was stunning. The project was completed after 3 weeks of working under the sun. Even though the weather was bad on the opening day, no one lost their enthusiasm. They began by filling the pool with water, and the excitement was huge. The water was cold, but everyone was happy. Just a few weeks earlier, it had been nothing more than a scrap truck, and now it had become a giant bathtub. They ran it, and it worked perfectly with no leaks. The trainees felt proud, and the experience had taught them so much. And that's the end of our project for today. You can now see what it looked like in the beginning and how it turned out in the end. That's it. If you have any other ideas, write them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep going. Goodbye.